What about the Prime Minister? I don't think he has ever given an interview after that very famous Dosti Bane Rakhe.
He
right?
hasn't even spoken to me after that.
Have you tried for an interview after that?
Several times. After he became Prime Minister, I've written him, I can't remember now how many letters, but there would be at least 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8, suggesting that we should do interviews, explaining to him that the last interview had not ended on the happiest of terms, but that maybe both of us as adults could put it behind us, that it was in our combined interest to carry on doing interviews. He needed to speak to the world, I needed to speak to the Prime Minister, but he didn't even bother to acknowledge those letters. The only conversation I had with him was 24 hours after the recording of the interview, when it was broadcast by CNN IBN the next day. And by then I was back in Delhi, and he rang me up and he said, "Tumne mere kandhon pe bandook rakh ke goli mari hai." And I said to him, I said, "Modi sir,
Do you mind translating that? Because
you kept your gun on my shoulder and fired." And I said to him, I said, "Mr. Modi, I had said to you yesterday that if you only do a 2 or 3 minute long interview and walk out after that, it will become a news item. It will be shown in every bulletin. It will be shown 36 times in the day. It will become a controversial talking point. But if you do the full interview, it will be shown repeated once and forgotten forever." I said, "You didn't take my advice." I said, "I was very keen that you should do it. I stayed behind for a whole hour trying to persuade you to understand things my way, but it didn't work." And he laughed and he said, "Chalo chodo." And his words were, "Karan, brother, I love you. When I come to Delhi, we'll have a meal together." Well, he's been in Delhi for the last 11 years. I don't know about love, but there's certainly been no meal together either.
Do you regret that interview at any point of time, Karan?
Not at all.
Because the BJP has not been very accessible to you after that, any of the leaders.
I
right?
don't regret that interview at all. I was doing a job. I was doing it to the best of my ability. If I had that opportunity again, I would undoubtedly do it the same way. The moment in the interview that I suspect Mr. Modi didn't like and that propelled him to walk out was the very first opening question.
Would you change that? Would you change that question, maybe ask that a little later, so that the interview continued for some more time, when you look back?
You know, I thought about that a lot before I actually started the interview. I knew I had to speak to him about 2001. It was important and essential. But I wasn't certain in my mind whether I should do it at the start and get it over with, whether I should do it somewhere in the middle, or leave it towards the end. And then I said to myself, if I don't begin with it and get it over with, it'll be hanging like a sword of Damocles over our head. And at all points of time, he'll be anticipating in his mind, when is he going to ask me that question? When is he going to ask me that question? And it would make for undue, unnecessary tension. I said it's better and sensible and cleaner to begin with it, spend 2-3 minutes on it, get it out of the way, and then go on to other things, which is why I chose to start with it. The second thing is that the question actually said to him, if I recall correctly from memory, "Prime Minister Modi, India Today magazine and the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation consider you the best chief minister in the country. But 140 million Muslims look upon you as a mass murderer. Do you have an image problem 6 weeks before your next election?" And I deliberately use that term, mass murderer, rather than a euphemism or a softer way of saying it, because I said to myself, the truth is that is precisely what Muslims do call him. In their private homes, in their private conversations, that is precisely how they refer to him. Now, he's a politician and he should know what people think of him. He should hear the truth. It's for him to learn how to handle it. If I were to put it in a softer, milder, euphemistic way, I would not be conveying the strength of feeling and the truth of what Muslims think. So I said, no, I will use the phrase Muslims use. He's a politician. He should need to take it. I don't think he liked it. I can understand that. I think he was perhaps offended by it. He said to me that it was only people like Karan Thapar who thought like this. And I said to him, I said, "No, Prime Minister, you're mistaken. The Chief Justice of India in open court has called you a modern-day Nero who deliberately looked the other way as innocent children and helpless women were burned to death." And he said to me, if I recall correctly, that was not part of a written judgment. At that point of time, I thought it wasn't part of a written judgment. I found out afterwards that in fact it was. It was a written judgment published and released by the Supreme Court in April 2004. But I said to him, even if it's not part of a written judgment, it was a comment made in open court by the Chief Justice of India. The papers have picked it up, it's been recorded, the country's heard it. Are you saying to me it doesn't matter to you that this is how the Chief Justice thinks of you? And we didn't go much further than that. I think the interview lasted for 2 minutes and 30 seconds or 40 seconds. He said he wanted a glass of water. I said, it's by your side, please help yourself. But he said, as you've heard him say, dosti bani rahe, and he got up and left.